recorded live.
I just love that. Well, again, welcome everybody. It's a little after 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday night, Eastern Standard Time, and we are going to do our Wednesday night call. July 1st, a couple days away from Independence Day. I'm going to take a run up here to a friend of mine who lives up in New Jersey, and we're even thinking about going over to Philadelphia to see, kind of look around there a little bit, see what's going on over in Philadelphia. I was reading something here the other day about, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all, and the men that signed, for our independence. And, man, I'll tell you what, if you read about them individually, boy, did those boys get their butts kicked. And the interesting thing, the bravery behind them, because they knew that they were going to get attacked. They probably knew they were going to get killed. They knew that they were going to lose everything they owned. And, the bottom line was that they basically flipped off King George III. And basically, we want nothing to do with you, man. We're not interested in the way you do business. So anyway, one thing I want to let you all know is here's what our forum's about. We don't give tax advice on this forum. We don't give any legal advice on this call. That's not what we're here to do. We gather as men and women who stand upon the land, and we exchange ideas. We exchange some concepts. We share information with each other, and that's what it is. And most of us who are on this call have a pretty good understanding that something's not right in our country. Hasn't been right for a while, and we want to help. We want to stop the tyranny. We want to stop giving all our money away to the British. We've had enough. So we're here, and we're gathering in peaceful gatherings. We have peaceful solutions and peaceful ideas, and we're not here to do anything other than help one another out. So if you guys, if we have any questions tonight, if we have to open it up, we have enough time. Please phrase your question. If it was you, what would you do if this happened to you? So that we're crystal clear. We're not attorneys. We're not bar card attorneys. We haven't signed an agreement with the barristers and with the Queen of England. So we're just here doing what our forefathers did. Ones that we're going to celebrate here in a couple of days. Men like Ben Franklin, and our Christian founding fathers. So anyway, that having been said, let me go ahead and get started about what we're going to share with. And again, if you just joined the call, make sure that if you want a copy of the text of some of that I'm going to be sharing with you this evening, you can go to the Yahoo group. And by the way, Tim, if you're on the call, go ahead and plug that for us, will you? And tell everybody what that Yahoo group is, where they can go and get a copy of everything that we talk about here.
Yes, sir. It's am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
It's the Free Americans. That would be plural. The Free Americans at Yahoo Groups. You go to the section of files, and that will enable you to download whatever information that Dave would speak of. So if you sign up and get in, I just wanted to add something real quick. The group here, I was kind of having a little thought about it today. I don't know if everybody knows who kind of is the information source of this group, but there's a set of folks that really are the lead dogs of this group that are just phenomenal. And there's a lot of groups out there, and there's a lot of people out there that Dave will probably say some things about tonight. But the people that lead this group are cutting edge, and they try things before They commit to sharing it, and I just wanted everybody to know that they're really in good hands, and that's and feel fortunate because I do to be involved with this group. But anyway, that's it.
Well, thanks, Tim. That was nicely put. Yeah, and we are going to talk about that. Hopefully, if we have enough time here at the end of the evening, we want to cut off here tonight by probably no later than 9:10, something like that, Eastern Standard Time. So, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of wrong information, and unfortunately, there's so many people in our country that are hurting, and they're making decisions out of desperation. And unfortunately, when people are desperate, they'll listen to just about anybody. And I think there's some clarity coming, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. So what we're going to be talking about tonight, again, is how to combat a bank foreclosure. And I think it's really important to understand and have crystal clarity exactly what happened when you guys sit down and you signed your note at the closing. And I'm not going to get into all the language and everything about the closing and mortgage officers and all this kind of crazy language that they use. But what I really want to get into is there's basically a couple of things that the bank must do, and this is the only way they can do it. And it's really how and why the bank must switch the currency. So that's something to put in your back of your mind is they switch the currency. And they do that because they can't fulfill the loan agreement, number one. Number two, to obtain your mortgage without investing a cent, because that's what they're doing. And they're forcing you to labor to pay the interest on the contract, which is your sweat equity. And then the bank refuses to fulfill the contract. And what that sets up is that you become the depositor, not the borrower. Now, you'll hear, people say that we're the lender and the funds are created by us. And to a large degree, that's true. But at the same time, what's really happening is that you've become the depositor. And one of the oldest schemes throughout history is the changing of currency. If you read Scripture at all, you'll remember reading that the money changers in the temple, and they changed the currency as a business. So you'd have to convert to the temple currency in order to buy an animal for sacrifice. So the temple merchants made money by the exchange, obviously, and of course the Bible calls it unjust weights and measures, and judges it to be an abomination. And that's why Jesus went into the temple, and that's why he was ticked off, man. He flipped over the tables, and he was obviously pretty upset. And so this goes way back as the money exchangers. So and our Christian founding fathers did the same thing. I mean, if you read Ben Franklin, there's an autobiography, of course, on a lot of these men and women who paved the way for our country. But in his autobiography, he wrote, "It's the inability of the colonist to get the power to issue their own money permanently out of the hands of King George III, and the international bankers was the prime reason for the Revolutionary War." So, everything that we fought for in the Revolutionary War is what's going on here today. And it's exactly. I mean, everything from, you look all the way around here, you're seeing who's the money exchangers. Well, look at Ben Bernanke. Look at Henry Paulson. Look at now Timothy Geithner. That's all they are. They're money exchangers. And, it's just coming down to, the people becoming educated and understanding what they did, because that mortgage, as soon as that piece of paper left your hands, off it went, and the bank stamped it on the back. And here's the two sentences, short as they are, that they don't want any of us to know or understand. Number one, it's pay to the order of, and then the second one is without recourse. Now, typically underneath that, you'll have a name of the bank, and then you'll have more than likely you'll have two signatures. Typically, those signatures are vice presidents or assistant vice presidents. And what it comes down to, the mortgage note is the money the bank uses to buy your property in a foreclosure. And so, understand, we're funding them. As depositors, we're giving them the bank, and they're exchanging it for a different form of currency, and which is an unlawful currency, by the way, and they turn around and use the money that we gave them off that note to buy the foreclosed property. So, if that just doesn't, gosh, I'm trying to find a better word than pissed off. I don't know what it is. I mean, that is absolutely, totally, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most insane things that can go on in our country. And it's happening. How many people have already lost their home? Every single one of those foreclosures, the bank bought the home from the deposited promissory note. So, that's what we're talking about here. So it comes down to, how the bank switches the currency. It's really, what it all comes down to. Because obviously most of us know, and I'm going to say a few things here because I don't know who's on the call tonight. I don't know if we have brand new people, so I just want to make sure we cater this for everybody. So for those of you that kind of know some of this, it might be a little redundant, but I think you ought to sit and listen to it anyway, just to make sure that it's really settled into every cell and fiber of your body, so that there is absolutely no question that you guys get this. The bank does not loan money, period. The bank merely switches the currency. So the alleged borrower created the money or the currency by simply signing the mortgage note. So then the bank doesn't sign that mortgage note because they know that they can't loan their money, meaning their depositors' money. So the mortgage note acts like the money. So to make it look like the bank loans you money, the bank deposits your mortgage note, which is also a lien on your property. A little more on that later. So as the money from which is to issue a check. Now, you guys might spell check C-H-E-C-K. That's not how it's spelled. It's C-H-E-Q-U-E. And if you go to the Yahoo group and download this document, How to Combat Bank Foreclosures, you'll understand. So I'm not going to go into it here because of time constraints. So the bottom line is that no money was loaned to legally fulfill the contract for the bank to own the mortgage note. So by doing this, the bank received the lien on the property without risking or using 1 cent of their own money, not a dime. So the people lost the equity in their home or their farm or their, whatever it is, to the bank, and now they must labor to pay the interest on the property, which the bank got for free. So, the depositor or the whatever you want to call them, loses immediately. So the check, any check that they create, is not money either. There's no money there because the deposit of the promissory note is what set that up. So the check merely transfers money. And by transferring the money, that the check acts like money. It's, kind of like the color of law. It's not really money, but for the sake, we're going to call it money. So the money deposited is actually the mortgage note. So if the bank ever fulfills the contract to loan the money, then the bank does not own the mortgage note. So the deposited mortgage note is still your money, and the checking account that they set up in your name, which they've credited, from which to issue any check that they write, is still your money. It's just that you don't know that, and you don't claim it, you don't challenge it, and we just go along our merry way, because we're ignorant to what really happened. So they only return the money in a form of a check. So why do we have to fulfill the agreement if the bank refuses to fulfill their end of the agreement? Well, the answer is we don't, because if the bank doesn't loan you their money, they have not fulfilled the agreement. So the contract is void on its face. So, you created the currency by simply signing the mortgage note. So the mortgage note has value because the lien of the property and because the fact that you are to repay the loan. So the bank deposits the mortgage note, right, the currency, and to create the check, and which is now turned into what they call BM, or known as bank money. So, both currencies cost nothing to create other than what? A couple pieces of paper and some ink. I mean, that's it. So by law, the bank cannot create currency without first depositing currency, or what you'll hear in most circles is legal tender. So, so that means that the people lost their property right there, and now they must labor for the next 30 years, their sweat equity, to pay the interest on their own money. So the interest would not be paid, of course, if the banks fulfilled the contract they wrote. If there was equal protection under the law in the contract, you'd get the mortgage back without further labor. So, why should the bank get your mortgage note and your labor for free when they refuse to fulfill the contract they wrote and told you to sign it? I mean, so, it breaks down to a couple. There's a million, I'm exaggerating, but there's so many levels of fraud here. First of all, the fraud, as MJ talks about, my buddy Michael James, the fraud was in the inducement. But the fraud further continues because now the fraud is in the conversion, because that's what they have to do, because that's how they make their deposit. So, the damages start to stack up because the bank refused to loan their money. And then the bank denies.
Hello?
And refusing repayment in the same type of currency deposited. So I hope that makes sense to you.
Hey Dave, you beeped out the last little sentence there. Could you repeat that? I think everybody had trouble hearing that last little section.
Okay, so being back when the people lost their property, so what they're doing again is they're making you, your sweat equity, your labor is to pay the interest on it. So what I was saying is that the interest wouldn't be paid if the banks fulfilled their side of the contract they wrote. And, if there was equal protection under the law in the contract, you'd get the mortgage and the note back without any further labor. I mean, why should the bank get your mortgage note and your labor for free, when they refuse to fulfill their end of the contract? So, and they ask you to sign it. Well, where's their signature on the note? Well, there isn't, except on the back. So again, as soon as that note is altered, now you have an altered note. So again, it's going back to what I was saying about there's fraud in the inducement. Right up front, everything that the loan officer and everything they tell you is crap. Why? Well, because they're leading you to believe that they're actually loaning their own assets, or they're investing any of their own money, or they're risking anything, or they pledged anything. None of that happened. So to make this whole deal go down, they have to take that mortgage note, and it's a fraudulent conversion. So they actually deposit it. They create an account in your name. So and so here's what happens. Now the damages are starting to stack up, because the damages exist in the fact that the bank refused to loan their money. So the bank denies the alleged borrower equal protection under the law in the contract by merely exchanging one currency for another and refusing repayment in the same type of currency deposited. In other words, if they created money off the promissory note, then, you show me anywhere in the contract where it said that I can't pay with the same currency that I used in the process.
Exactly.
In other words, if I used a promissory note as currency, then I should be able to pay it back with a promissory note.
Exactly.
So can you do that? Well, maybe. I know that, I know that there's been some successes, with Tim Turner and his group. And there are successes in a couple of other arenas. But you've got to, it comes down to one thing, enforcement. The other thing it comes down to is making sure that your foundational process is intact and those documents are sitting where they need to be to make, everything happen. So I think we're, so many people have tried to pay this off and do this, based on, submitting a bonded promissory note, and then, you give them fiduciary instructions and you do all these things, and then the only enforcement really that you have is to 1099 it. OID it, 1099A it, and that's a whole nother topic for another night.
Hey Dave, can I jump in here? Hi everybody, it's Tina. I know I haven't been on for a while. We are
Tina.
A huge project that will, once we have it together, will be. I'm just going to give you a little blip now. It goes right along with what Dave's talking about when you do those bond and promissory notes. I'm just going to tell you guys now, go study trust law. That's what y'all need to do, is go to study trust law, and then you can understand why they steal your notes, why they don't honor your A for Vs, why you get defeated in every single court case that you go into and you're set up to lose in everything you do. You need to understand how the trust was created, who the players are, and what their roles are, and how you fit into that whole picture.
Hey, Tina, can you throw out a little bit of good reference material maybe that people can look up maybe to study the trust law?
Let me see what I have and that I can pass along to you guys. A lot of the docs, some of the stuff that we have you can't even get a hold of anymore. So let me see what I have, and I will get that for you, but I want to throw it back over to Dave. But this goes right along with what you're talking about, and why, even with the OIDs, actually, with what we're learning now, it shows why, I hate to tell you guys this, but with what I've learned now, we really, unless we go back and fix things, didn't have a right to file them. We can change that. And as we get more into this and I've got some more information, I will get it to you guys. It's still a work in progress, and it completely makes sense. But the beneficiary in the trust is the one who is the beneficiary of the money that they make with the selling of the securities. So start studying your trust law so when we have this conversation, you guys understand where we are. Dave, back to you.
Thanks, Tina. And I would think that not this next week, but the following week, we're going to invite Tina and a couple of others to the call, and I'm going to ask them to actually run the call and share with you the discoveries and what they've done here. And that is basically, you guys, here's what you need to know. Everything out there is a trust. From the time you got your birth certificate to the time you got your Social Security, to every court case, to every traffic ticket, to everything is a trust. And in a trust, there are three components. You have the grantor, you have the beneficiary, and you have the trustee. And unfortunately, many of us have been in dishonor in many of our presentments and many of our administrative remedies because we didn't understand the dynamic of the trust and who's who, and to go into a court as a grantor and a beneficiary, looking around, scanning the whole courtroom like, okay, who wants to be the trustee? Oh, let's take that guy up there wearing the black dress. I think you'd look to me like you'd make a great trustee. And along with that, here's your fiduciary. So instructions. So we'll talk more about that in the upcoming weeks, because I can tell you that the team that we're involved with here are working their tails off behind the scenes here to come up with some administrative remedy here that we certainly believe is showing us right now that's going to be some really kick-butt stuff. So that having been said, let me kind of go back to, combating this this foreclosure issue, because on there you're going to see I don't know how many pages here. There's like 2 pages, 2.5 pages of case law, and it's just case after case after case after case that says everything we just talked about here. In other words, let me read one here from you. A national bank has no power to lend its credit to any person or corporation, and that was Bowman versus Needles National Bank. Here's another one. It has been settled beyond controversy that a national bank, under federal law, being limited in its powers and capacity, cannot lend its credit by guaranteeing the debts of another. All such contracts entered into by its officers are ultra vires. I mean, when you start adding some of these kinds of things to your documents, they're going to know that you're pretty serious. There is no doubt, but what the law is, that a national bank cannot lend its credit or become an accommodation endorser. That means exactly what they can't do. They cannot take your promissory note and sign that bad boy on the back and deposit it and create an account in your name and then turn it around and fraudulently write checks on it. I mean, come on. A bank can lend its money, but not its credit. The bank is allowed to hold money upon personal security, but it must be money that it loans, not its credit. So, there's just case law in this document. You guys you're gonna love this. But I want to read you one of my favorites. I just really love this one. The Supreme Court found that the plaintiff in a civil RICO action need establish only a criminal violation and not a criminal conviction. Further, the court held that the defendant need only have caused harm to the plaintiff by the commission of a predicate offense in such a way as to constitute a pattern of racketeering activity. That is, the plaintiff need not demonstrate that the defendant is an organized crime figure, a mobster in the popular sense, excuse me, or that the plaintiff has suffered some type of special racketeering injury. All that the plaintiff must show is what the statute specifically requires. The RICO statute and the civil remedies for its violation are to be liberally construed to affect the congressional purpose as broadly formulated in the statute. Oh my, go show that to a foreclosure attorney in some of your documents. He's going to go, oh wow, this person here has done some homework. So later in the document here, it goes over the definitions of, when you're examining a bank contract, so that if you don't know or understand, they've got them all laid here, with bank account and bank credit, bank deposit, demand deposit, bank deposit or bank draft, on and on and on and on and on. And then it goes into questions that one might ask the bank in an interrogatory. How many of you have ever been called to interrogatories? Well, wouldn't it be nice to have the shoe on the other foot? And so I highlighted, just a couple of my favorites, and I thought I would share those with you. I love this one right off the bat. Did the bank loan gold or silver to the alleged borrower? Well, I wonder why you're asking that question. Did the bank loan credit to the alleged borrower? Did the borrower sign any agreement with the bank which prevents the borrower from repaying the bank in credit? Oh, that one's sweet. Is it true that the bank creates checkbook money when the bank grants loans simply by adding deposit dollars to the accounts on the bank's books in exchange for the borrower's mortgage note? Has your bank at any time used the borrower's mortgage note promised to pay as a deposit on the bank's books from which to issue bank checks to the borrower? Can you see the banker sitting on the witness stand reaching for the mailbox? According to bank's policy, is a promise to pay money the equivalent of money? When the bank loan officer talks to the borrower, does the bank inform the borrower that the bank uses the borrower's mortgage note to create the very money the bank loans out to the borrower? Oh my, that one's got to hurt. Does the bank have a policy to show the same money in two separate places at the same time? Oh boy. You can imagine the bankers going, how did this guy or this woman, this man or this woman, find out this information? Does the bank have to obey the laws concerning commercial paper, commercial transactions, commercial instruments, and negotiable instruments? Did the bank lend the borrower the bank's assets or the bank's liabilities? Oh, man, that one is sweet. Did the bank take the money from the demand deposit account, savings account, or certificate of deposit, or any combination of the DDA, SA, or CD, and loan this money to the borrower? Did the bank replace the money or credit which it loaned to the borrower with the borrower's assumed mortgage note? Oh man, would they be squirming or what? And by the way, I'm just reading a couple here that would happen to be my favorites. When you go onto the Yahoo group and you pull this document out and you read these for yourself, you might read a few here that become your favorites. These just happen to be mine. When the borrower assumed mortgage note was debited as a bookkeeping entry, was the offsetting entry a credit account? And then finally, when the assumed loan was made to the borrower, did the bank have every DDA, SA, and SD backed up by the Federal Reserve Bank notes on hand at the bank? Because that's what the money exchangers do, ladies and gentlemen. They take a promissory note, they deposit it, and they turn it into currency, their currency, as an exchange, and then they turn around and create it going out the other side with a check that comes off your account. So again, if it doesn't make you mad as hell to know that if they go to foreclosure, they're buying your property with your money. That's disturbing.
How you doing, Dave?
Do what?
How you doing, Dave? This is Harold.
Hi, Harold.
Hi, Harold.
I'm glad to see you. You made good use of that.
Yeah.
I sent.
Yeah, I am making very good use of it. And I hope our listeners tonight will make good use of it as well, because, basically this this whole document here will basically, in my humble opinion, give you everything you need to go into court. No question about it. And
I sent you the Time Shelf books also, right?
the which one?
Chance to go through those?
No, I haven't gone through those yet, Harold.
Okay, because actually they go together. All three of them should go together.
Okay.
Harold, upload those, Harold.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll share. We'll put those on the Yahoo group, and we'll share those with our listeners. So, just to kind of conclude here, do you not know there is no agreement or contract in the absence of mutual consent, which is obviously a beautiful thing. And the whole trick here is that when they made you a depositor instead of a borrower, neither the mortgage note nor the check is legal tender. So, by the bank not fulfilling the contract, by loaning legal tender, they make the alleged borrower a depositor. And this is fraudulent conversion of the mortgage note, and obviously fraud is a felony. So, it boils down that the bank had no intent in making a loan, making it promissory fraud. It's promissory fraud, it's mail fraud, it's wire fraud, and there's a list of other crimes a mile long here. So, how can banks make felony legal? They can't. So, fraud is fraud, and fraud is fraud, as a duck is a duck, quack, quack, and waddle, waddle from side to side. So, if the bank loaned us legal tender, in other words, other depositors' money to obtain the mortgage note, the bank could never obtain the lien on the property they couldn't get it for free. So by not loaning their money, but instead depositing the mortgage note, the bank creates inflation. So I've jokingly said from time to time, anytime you go down and buy a house and you go sign all your paperwork, go home and call your neighbors and say, hey, I just wanted to call you and apologize because I just signed my mortgage note and I just raised the price of milk to you and your family. Not that a lot of people on this call drink milk, but whatever it is, that's what we did. Because that's an interesting point. Because the mortgage note that's created, if you look, when you signed your documents, you said, okay, I'm borrowing $200,000. But if you looked at it over 30 years, you saw how much you paid back over 30 years. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That money's not in the system. All that interest is not in the system. A lot of people are asking today, well, if they're doing all this with the notes and they take the money and we've created it and we do this and we do that, how is it that you have to bail out the banks? Well, think about it. What are they doing? Are they fractionalizing and monetizing? In addition, we're not even getting into that here. We're just talking about the fact that the mortgage note is stamped and signed on the back and deposited. Again, we're not even getting into that. So, the bottom line is that, they can't loan their depositors money. So this is the only way they can do it because the bank received an asset, but they never gave up an asset. How many of you bought a house, you lived there for 5 years or whatever, 5 months for that matter, and then you bought another house? So what happened? Well, during the transaction at the closing, they paid off the other house with your money, by the way, that was already deposited on your other mortgage note. So you have to pay this. Remember, this is all moving forward with you as you do on the note, because the very first note you paid, that you signed, created the funds. So when you go off and buy another house and they take that note, now they've got double the money, so they paid off that other property. Well, I got a question for you. Did they send you your note back? Or the question is, did we ask or demand that note come back? So put that, back there in the back of your mind, knowing that moving forward, that you're going to make, before you pay off anything anymore, you're going to make the bank come and show and bring the note back to you. So, again, they received a benefit. Well, they received a benefit, but what's the benefit? Because without the benefit, we would receive equal protection under the law, which would mean we did not need to give up an asset or pay an interest on our own money, because that's what you're doing. You're paying interest on your own money, which is also illegal, obviously. So without their benefit, we would be free and not enslaved. So there comes the biblical usury side of things here, obviously. And, because the bank broke the contract from the get-go, which they never intended to fulfill in the first place. So, we got a check and a house while they received a lien and the interest for free, and, and they did that through a broken contract. So, again, while we got the debt and lost our assets, and, what else are we losing? Well, our country, our dignity, our freedoms, and the list is a mile long. So, the benefit is the banks. So, they've placed liens on nearly every asset in this nation without it costing them one damn dime. So, inflation is working to pay the bank interest on, our own money is the benefit. So, some benefit. So, this is just a shell game. They're just moving it from one place to another place to another place to another place to another place. So, once you go into this document, you'll see there's one court case in here that was done back in 1969, and there was a judge here that ruled constitutionally, and it's pretty exciting to read that whole thing. And so I'm not gonna go into that on the call. But I will tell you that there are templates in there if you decide you want to use them. And be advised, if you go on there and you pull this off of here, this is not our creation. It's not my creation. I'm not going to mention the creation of the person on the call. I'll let those of you who decide to go look at this read it for yourselves. But there's templates in there to start your own case. And again, we've got, as Harold just mentioned to me, there's 2 other documents to go with this, and we will bring that forward next week with you. But again, here we only have an hour of time tonight, so I wanted to make sure that you guys got the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. But they've got it all. They've got it all in here. The questions, the contracts, the whole thing here, and it's very, very, very well done. But let me just caution you. If you decide to use this, here's what you need to do. You need to raise your right hand in the air and say, I take full responsibility for anything that I do moving forward here. You don't blame this on Susie or Johnny or anybody else. If you pull this off that group listing and you decide to move forward with it, you take 100% full responsibility for it. Again, tonight we're just sharing information. I'm not saying to use this. I'm not saying not to use it. I've looked at it and looks pretty good to me. I'll probably use some of this, but you know what? I'm not going to use it until I own it and understand it, and could walk into a courtroom and put it in front of a judge, and then do what I got to do behind it. That's not for everybody, but here's in my humble opinion, I want to share as we kind of close it up, as we're coming around to 3/4 of the hour. There's been a couple of guys out here sharing information with people, and I felt one of them for a long time was totally FOS, and that's an abbreviation, and you can hopefully figure it out. Let's just say that my instincts and my intuition told me that there was something wrong. I spoke at a little event back in, I think it was January or February, end of January, 1st of February, somewhere around then. And I spoke for a couple days. Somebody had asked me to come up and speak, and I chose to do it. I spoke for free. I wasn't compensated to come up and speak. And, we shared a bunch of information with folks. Well, one of the people attending came up to me and started telling me about, what I thought of Pastor Tony and the GSA forms 90, 91, and 28, and all the peace bonds and Plevins bonds and all these things that were going on, and Pastor Tony this and Pastor Tony that. And so I started listening very closely, and I found out that people were paying $1,000 to come hear this guy speak. Well, out of the mouth of the person that was telling me this, who had actually attended, they also told me that allegedly Pastor Tony told everybody, not alleged, he told people that he had figured out how to get into the DTC. And so, he was able to access his 3 whatever it is amount that is alleged that's worth on the back of the Social Security cards, that number there. And I think it's $3.2 billion. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy's got $3.2 billion. Why is he charging $1,000 to have people come to his seminar? Well, the woman quickly started defending. Well, there's somebody else running his seminars, and they're the ones that's charging, and they're the one that's doing this, and they're the one that's doing that. And I thought, you know what? He's still in dishonor. I don't care, in my humble opinion. You know what? Can he charge whatever he wants? Yeah, I guess he can. But you're going to get up there and you're going to tell people that you're going to show them how to do this and how to get into the Treasury Direct and, access this $3-some billion. Well, I'm thinking to myself, okay. And then it went from there. The next thing I heard was he was going to load up a bus of I don't know how many people, and they were going to run down to, the DTC and get everybody signed up. And I thought, how stupid do you have to be to buy into that? Well, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word stupid. Desperate, perhaps, is more in line. But I also know I have firsthand information, and some of those people are on the call tonight that had met up with this guy, Pastor Tony Fisher King, whatever his name is. And that's another question. Why does he have to come to the table as a fiction in his all-caps name? Pastor Tony Fisher, Pastor Tony King, la-di-da, la-di-da. And you know what? I pose the same question, and I hope Sam Kennedy does the same thing. Why does he have to introduce himself as a fiction? I mean, let's face it. I think Sam Kennedy's got a lot of good information, but that's another dynamic that's going on. The question is he a medical doctor? I don't think he is. I believe that he was a dentist, perhaps, and to portray himself as a medical doctor, to me, is obviously very dishonorable. In addition to that, I don't believe his name is Sam Kennedy, and I've heard from some very reliable sources that his name is, I believe it's Glenn Unger. I may be not 100% correct on that, but his name isn't Dr. Sam Kennedy. So if I got on here tonight and said, I'm some type of a fiction, I would question whether I wanted to listen to this call anymore. I mean, I just would. So I think that, this Pastor Tony phenomena, and let's face it, this guy, he must have been pretty impressive because some people that I admire and respect, like Winston Shrout and Tim Turner and Sam Davis and Tom Schultz and some of the others out there, Kevin Hines and I think David Clarence and some of these guys, they were buying into the Pastor Tony train and following it along. And then I think things started adding up, and Scripture tell us, we judge a tree by its fruit. And people were starting to confirm that the things that Pastor Tony was saying from the front of the room was not only not true, it wasn't congruent, and they were starting to find out again that he was FOS. So apparently Sam Kennedy is going to make some announcements this next Sunday on his radio show, and I am interested to see how Kennedy's going to dance around this one, because he is going to have to dance, because I believe that he bought into the Pastor Tony phenomena, hook, line, and sinker. And then and there's also one other man who has, I think, done some swaying and has misled some men and women, and that's Patrick Devine. I've had challenges with Patrick Devine on several issues, and the number one issue is that he never did any of the processes that he's talked about on his on his talk show broadcast and everything else. So did he work some of those processes? It's my understanding he didn't, but he talked about them and said they should work, and words to that effect. So you know what? I may be thinking that Patrick Devine and Patrick Tony can get together and go on the road themselves. I think what they need to do is, shut down, moving forward with any of this. I think Pastor Tony's days are done. I know that he challenged Kevin Hines. I read what Kevin had wrote. He brought Kevin out to do the seminar. They had agreed on an amount, and then I'm reading this from Kevin Hines' statement that he didn't want to call Pastor Tony's boys thugs, but it's my understanding that the thugs were there, and they were there to intimidate Kevin and apparently to intimidate some others. So, I wish you well, Pastor Tony, and, we all come out of the womb spitting lies, and, but I'd sure hate to be, I tell you what, I'd hate to take my last breath and have to stand before my Creator someday, knowing that, hold on a second, I just got something here that I want to, Okay, Pastor Tony Fisher Keene Jones Smith Miller. There you go. Thank you, Wes. That was a beautiful thing. That's funny right there. I don't care what language it's in. But the bottom line is, first of all, I'm coming off and I'm telling people that I'm a pastor. Well, the Lord holds pastors to a higher standard because when they get up on that pulpit, you know what? They have a responsibility. And that's why so many churches and pastors today are nothing more than, working for Satan. Because the fact of the matter is the 501(c) corporations and, in my humble opinion, the churches today in America and across the world for that matter are impotent. And so I would challenge any of you, if you're going to a church, one of the first things you can do, and if you're going to go, maybe you're going to go look for a new church, and, one of the first things you can ask the pastor, are you a 501(c) corporation? Because if you are, I'm sure that it is possible that the pastor may not know, but the fact of the matter is it's our responsibility to let them know. As for Pastor Divine, there's a whole. Yeah, sure. Go right ahead, Harold.
Just quickly, because I have strong feelings about that issue also. Because if they coming forth to us saying that they had the calling of God, they're essentially calling God a liar if they're a 503(c) corporation, because the Bible tells me that He leads you into all truth.
That's right.
And that would include that issue.
That's right.
And I'll leave it at that.
Right. Well, that's absolutely, and that's perfect. I'm so glad you added that. I also believe, though, David Clarence, with his, I think it's All Liberties Expressed Reserved, he's got a community call going on. And the episode 72, I think, is Tony King's, it's Put Up or Shut Up time. Here's what it says. Hello, folks. It's finally put up or shut up time. We have invited Pastor Tony King, his supporter Nana, and these commercial gurus who know the details, Tom Schultz, Sam Davis, Winston Shrout, Tim Turner, Sam Kennedy, and Kevin Hines alone, with TRVTH, who warned people and seminar attendee victims to join the notary's discussion about, Tony King's seminar and so on, and his broken promises and the 10 homes per attendee that they were supposed to buy, the outrageous fees that the seminar organizers, and, just the inconsistencies across the board. But you know what? The gig's up. It's over. This guy's going down. And again, I would certainly hate to be him on his last breath, standing before Christ, knowing that he's burnt and stolen and cheated and lied so many people, in this country who needed help and spent money that they probably could have used for food and used money for to keep a roof over their family's head. So I leave vengeance, saith mine. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So, as some of you know, I had a heart attack a few weeks ago, and I'm not going down that road of hate and fear and frustration anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pray for Pastor Tony that he wake up to what he's doing and fall to his knees and ask for forgiveness. Because if he doesn't, his family's going to suffer for it. Because that's what's written into the scriptures. So, Patrick Divine, same thing. It's time for you to shut up. It's just time to shut it down. Enough is enough. Because there's a whole bunch of people out there in all those different groups who need some help and they need support. They need a group where they can come to and they can talk and they can express themselves. They can share ideas. They can share concepts. They can work with each other on their paperwork. They can help, proof the paperwork. They can get tapped into the notaries. And, that's really what this is about. And you know what? That's what this call's about. So, what I would, and by the way, we're operating under the premise of freely given, freely received. So, that's how we're operating because, again, I love the song, Together We Stand and Divided We Fall. So I do want you to know that next week, we're going to talk about some information here that you can use for your frivolous filings, And then we also have some, the following week, we're going to be talking more about what you can do with with a trust and understanding the trust and how to move about the country as the grantor beneficiary, because that's where you want to operate from. And we're also going to talk about all the different trusts that are out there. So again, I can tell you that we have a group of men and women who have been just intensely studying it, and I totally believe that the Lord has spoken to their hearts and has put the information in front of them, and we're all going to be blessed with their information and their knowledge, and how to turn some things around when it comes to the attacks that are happening upon the wonderful men and women, the Christian men and women in this country. So again, I want to thank you all for coming on to the call tonight. We are coming around to the top of the hour, so I'm going to, if it's I think it's appropriate, and we're going to do it on every call moving forward. And if I don't do this at the end of the call, I would ask somebody to send me a Skype. And right now, I'm getting so many Skypes that I can't respond to you guys. So I just like to conclude our call tonight with a moment of prayer. And I'd like to start it off by just having a moment of silence for all the men and women out there that are suffering from as a result of their property being stolen in foreclosure. And again, just have a moment of silence for all the men and women in our country and across our planet who are suffering as a result of the Rothschild cartel. And after this moment of silence, I'll conclude with a prayer. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, thank you for the wisdom and the knowledge, and for the people that are coming to this call, and for all of us who are coming together to do your bidding. Father, we pray that you fill us with knowledge and hope and understanding, and really allow us to understand the power that we have when we operate as men and women of your truth. Father, remind us that we are kings, and that we are in your army, and that none can come against us. We also pray, Father, for the men and women who are rogue agents and of alphabet organizations. Father, may you open their eyes and their minds to the truth and what they're doing to their country and to their families and to their neighbors. Father, just put the information in front of them, and let them not understand anything other than the truth. Help them to reach out to you and make a profession of faith. May we all find faith and truth and understanding within each other, and that working together as brothers and sisters within the Lord's granting us the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding to make decisions and move about the country in faith, and move out of inspiration, knowing that everything that happens, every single thing that happens to every one of us was happened to us for the reason. And though we may not agree with it, we may not understand it, we do know that it's going to serve a greater good. And Father, we just pray and give you all the glory. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks everybody for coming on the call tonight. We'll have our Wednesday night call next week, 8:00, and tell your friends and family that if anybody that you know has received a frivolous filing letter or these types of things coming from the IRS, you don't want to miss this call. We'll also have some surprise information for you also next week at 8:00. And then the following week at 8:00, we're going to be talking about what Tina came on and gave us a little snapshot of, and that's about trust and operating as grantors, beneficiaries, and who do we want to make the trustees. So again, thanks everybody for coming on the call tonight. Good night, God bless, and take great care and be safe out there.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Dave.